Kenya's micro, small and medium enterprise MSME sector is the backbone of the Kenyan economy, contributing to over 40% of the GDP and employing approximately 15 million people, mainly within the informal sector. 3 years since the office was formed, what has been the change realized in Kenya's MSME sector? Does the common hustler still have a stake in the Kenya Kwanza government? And what plans are there to register the MSMEs? We speak to the Principal Secretary in the State Department for MSMEs Development, Honorable Susan Mangeni.
All right, now we are speaking to the Principal Secretary for the State Department of MSMEs Development, that is Honorable Susan Mangeni, to have a conversation about the year that has been as far as this department is concerned, and what are some of the wins as we reflect on the year 2025 and looking forward to the year 2026. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation.
Thank you so much, Brian. First of all, let me take this opportunity to welcome you. I know you are coming here for the first time to the home of hustlers, the State Department of MSME. The year has been fine. The year has been progressive. Last year we said this will be the year of takeoff, and indeed we've been able to see quite a number of projects taking off.
Okay.
And we are beginning to see the results from the hard work that has been since we came into the office in the last 3 years. And next year we're looking forward to continue charging forward. And as far as the sector, the MSME sector is concerned, I think we are now ready to support His Excellency the President to undertake this transformative journey of moving us from the third world to the first world. We are actually charging forward to even move beyond the Singapore.
Okay, so what would be beyond Singapore? We'll come and talk about that. But let me start with this one.
Yeah.
And you say the year has been great, and of course we're charging forward. But if you're given an opportunity to rate what this department has been able to achieve this particular year, how would you rate it?
I think we first of all go back to what we exist to do. We exist to support the MSME and to especially promoting their growth, building their competitiveness so that they can grow and scale up. And just looking at where we found the MSME the last 3 years and vis-a-vis the commitment that we made, we undertook to undertake. Necessary. Hustlers are not going to let me rest because, it's we have to make sure they can access Hustler Fund. So just looking at, first of all, as you know, you'll appreciate that MSME is one of the key pillars, the 5 key pillars of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, alongside agriculture, universal health care, affordable housing, digital superhighway, and creative economy. So those are the key sectors that we have been working on to see how to grow our economy, as well as channeling out value in terms of creating jobs for our MSMEs, enhancing the livelihood of the Kenyan people, ensuring that we have food security, and also ensuring that we can start appreciating equitable growth and transformation across the country. So, and MSME, we have commitments that bears towards supporting the growth of the sector. The first commitment that we've been working on and we undertook was to decriminalize work, recognizing all aspects of work in our economy. Kazi ni kazi. There is no dirty job. All work pays, and it's now incumbent of the authority in whichever spaces to make it work better, to create decent spaces. When we talk about recognizing work, is that when you came in, works like border, the transport sector were being looked upon. Look at businesses, small businesses like hawking was also being looked down upon. People are looking at them as, being disorderly, being chaotic, disrupting. But then if you come to think about it, these are spaces, these are workspaces that occupy the better part of our economy in terms of generating more opportunities, be it even job opportunities, be it even revenue to economy. So instead of us now seeing those running battles, which have really come down, we have talked with the authorities, and in this case I'm talking about the county governments all over the country. And there is that increased attention to the sector. Every county government is now coming up with decent working spaces. They're designating working spaces, trading spaces, and are coming up with a framework on how now to coexist with all forms of workers in their spaces.
Right.
And to me, I would say, if we were to look back the last 3 years, the many cases of running battles between county askaris and MSME, I think they've come down. Simply because we've been able now to talk to them and let them now underscore the significant role that the small businesses or the small business players undertake in our economy, and how critical they are to the growth of these cities and urban centers. And I think this is a very major achievement, the fact that we are able to recognize all forms of work and commit to make them decent, to enable them so that they can grow so and thrive in those spaces.
I want to ask a question, because you mentioned something important for me, and I think in terms of recognizing the kind of role that they play. And you say, before we came into office, for the past 3 years, before the 3 years that we actually came into office, this is a sector that was looked down upon as far as work is concerned. To some extent, blue collar jobs were not that enticing to some if you, for lack of a better word. How do we now look at it in a different kind of way? What was the kind of engagement that people were involved in try to now give respect to this particular sector?
First of all is to try to understand our economy. What are the various components that forms our economy? And once you get to underscore the fact that we are presiding over microeconomy, then you'll appreciate all forms of works that happens there. Now look at, for example, the boda sector. If one day you wake up and we told them, today you are not going to work, hatuko works, like they like saying, take leave for one day, our economy will crash. If we were just to look at the kind of damage that will cause
so that's how
to the transport, to the logistics sector, and that's how they become so important, because today there is nowhere you can go, be it to work, be it to the markets, everywhere across the country where you will not meet boda. So the whole transport sector so critically that in their absence, then the whole economy will collapse. And it might take us several years to rebuild it and recover and be where we are. So we first of all gave it that deep understanding. What is it that they do? Which sectors do they play? And how critical are they? So with that, then we began now changing our mindset around it. You don't look at them as nuisance, but you look at them as key players in the transport value chain. And you see, because they're fueling, this is how they run the economy. They spend every day on fuel. They're carrying customers, enabling mobility of customers from one area to another. They're pushing goods to the market. They're carrying labor force around. This is how critical they come. So, but what is it that we needed to do? Number one, we reorganize our infrastructural development. If you go to other economies, you find that they've come up with plans. Anytime they're building roads, they know that these people also need to coexist in that spaces, so they do the way live. The kind of way live that is left behind is for them, where you can come to where you think you'll meet your customers, you drop off, picking up and dropping off zone. So you designate those spaces. And then also we reorganize them, because you cluster them. You cluster them in groups based on where they're coming from, where their localities, the estates, the villages. And we've done massive clustering of the sector, in the sense that in each and every county you'll find registered groups. So when you put them in groups, they know each other, they can kind of regulate their behavior, and it's very easy to reach out to them and help them, and also see how do you scale their businesses, how do you support them. So I think they've been well organized. They have a well worked out leadership across the country. Each and every county has got the leadership. They have organized around the stages where they pick up people, especially in the rural areas. And in towns here, today if you go to the Nairobi city, you'll find there are various spots where you find them. So you don't really find them scattered all over. There are now certain corners through which they are dwelling there. So everybody knows, if I need to pick up order, I need to move to this place. And I think, to me, just understanding that we cannot do without them, and the kind of trade that they do is not just directly benefiting them, but is also benefiting the entire economy and everybody else, was very crucial. The other bit is the formalization of the MSME sector, of which now is formalizing those small businesses. Initially, it was very, very expensive to get registered, and anytime we spoke about formalization, the misconception around there was, now it's about taxation. So, and that was a very wrong and misleading, conceptualization.
How did you get it wrong to think that it was about taxation?
I mean, people think that if you are registered, you are known, and if you are known, then the government will come for you. And people look at taxation as being a very punitive measure to the citizen. But unfortunately, that's not true, because taxation is also an enabler to the economy. Because our taxes, when we provide our taxes, that's how we get to meet also certain basic needs that we need. That's how we get good roads that we desire. That's how we light up our streets. That's how we manage to support sectors like healthcare, like education. We build schools from the taxation. We build all those public amenities. We create cities. We bring about securities all over, so that at the end of the day, there is still direct returns to you as a citizen, because then you get to exist in a very decent environment, decent, secure environment. That's how we promote industrialization. If you are in business, that's when now things work out for you, because then the cost of living also comes down. So taxation is still an indirect benefit to you, much as it is a direct benefit to the economy. But again, now when it comes to basic business registration, why we try to persuade the MSMEs not to look at it negatively, is that when you register yourself, number one, it increases your visibility. When you are visible to the actors, to the various actors, be it private sector, be it government, to government intervention, then you get supported. Because we cannot support someone who is not visible. When we really do not know which kind of business you're doing, where you're operating from, what challenges you experience, what opportunities exist around there. So registration, being known that you exist, you're doing this kind of business, to a large extent also helps us to come up with the intervention that can boost your business. And when it comes to this conversation around even taxation, tax incentives, again, we cannot also prefer incentives to people we do not know. So when we know and we're able to measure the scale of your businesses, the environment in which you are undertaking your business, then you will come up with tax incentives that are attendant to your context. So this is all about, so what we've done, one of the inhibiting factor has been the tax burdens and regulatory, the very complex regulatory frameworks around that. And that was also our other commitment, our second commitment, that to support the MSME, to grow our MSME sector, we needed to ease the complex regulatory frameworks and making sure that we reduce the burden cost that comes to those various compliance.
Okay.
And how have we done that? Number one, I don't know if you want to ask a question or if you want me to...
No. Let me chime in a little bit. I want to look at, now we've talked about the border and, the regulation around it, the formalization. Now there's this aspect, this one particular group that you also mentioned about.
Yes.
Some people, the hawkers in the streets that sometimes have been harassed by kanjos in different parts. Now we say we've partnered with county governments to be able to lessen that. But now when it comes to identifying that group and ensuring that that group is actually part of the tax bracket and registration, licensing, proper organization, what has happened in regards to that?
Yeah, so that's why in response to our second commitment, which was about easing the complex regulatory framework and making it easy to enter into business and to gain entry into business, as well as to the cost of doing business, bringing it down. We've done quite a number of reforms. Number one, from our very own State Department, we have reviewed the MSME policy. So we are going to have, in this current financial year, we'll be enacting a new policy, a reviewed policy from the 2020 rather, to now we are going to have 2025 MSME policy. Right now we have progressed it to the cabinet level. So we hope when we come back from the holidays, we can now progress it and enact it into a policy framework. What is in the policy is that, number one, this policy, first of all, is recognizing the environment in which we MSMEs exist on, in terms of the emerging opportunities as well as emerging challenges, and bringing on board some of the key interventions that as a government we can drive to hold the sector, number one, together, and then also to start now seeing impact from the growth. So we want to unlock the growth of the MSME. The biggest challenge we've had in our MSME sector has been the stunted growth. That yes, 98% of all our businesses are MSME in Kenya. If you look at the business environment, MSME occupy 98%, but most of them are micro, and majority of them are informal. But you see, we cannot grow the economy, and we cannot support MSME to grow and even contribute more to our GDP than what they do presently at 40%. Generate more sustainable and secure jobs to economy if they are not appreciating growth. So it is we're coming up with frameworks that can help us, an intervention on how do we unlock the growth in the economy of the MSME sector in the economy, so that they start scaling up. If we are micro, you start moving to small, small you move to medium, and then medium to larger enterprises that then can assure us more jobs into our economy. So the policy brings together various interventions that are needed from various players and coordinating the sector. And you see, this is the first time that we are having the State Department of MSME, which has, to an extent, provided a one-stop shop for all the MSME focus and efforts from all the key players, development partners, private sector, the government agencies, and the MSME themselves to come together. And so we can leverage on the various resources that we have, plan well, and see now how do we take the various actions that can unlock growth across the sector. Then the policy also recognizes the key priority value chain. So it's focusing on the value chain approach. As you know, the government has flagged out key priority value chains. Most of them in the agricultural sector. We're looking at leather, dairy, textile, and apparel. We're looking at edible oils, rice, coffee, tea. We're looking at blue economy, which is a very emerging and very strong and high growth potential value chain. We're looking at building and construction that anchors the affordable housing, project that you're doing across the country, which also brings about the market. It's a show of an expanded market to Juakalis because we have ring-fenced certain supplies of building materials to the Juakali sector to the tune of more than 11 billion. And the other day, PSing was telling me it's even likely to hit even 20 billion. You can imagine a market of over 20 billion to a Juakali sector. This is how now you embark on the journey of Singapore. Then also looking at the artisanal mining and the other natural resources. So those are the key sectors. So how we want to support our economy? We want to become more sector specific, value chain driven, and all these value chain have been mapped out across the country.
Okay.
So for instance, if you went to the north and eastern, there are some areas you find us going big on the leather and beef value chain there. If you go to western Kenya, we're big on the blue economy, on the rice, on edible oil, as well as. So we have identified this value chain because each and every region has got a piece in them, and this will also ensure that then we also start seeing equitable development and industrial growth across the country, so that there's no corner of this country where you can say you can't do business or it's not economically viable. It is from that value chain. So we are updating the value chain approach to it. We're also going big on digitization.
And that's all in that particular policy?
In that particular, recognizing the digital, the progress we made on the digital space. How are we digitizing our MSME so that they can also leverage on the emerging opportunity in globally, not just locally assessing the market.
We talked about, before we move the conversation forward, we talked about the 98%,
Yep.
This particular sector, but now most of them do not get to grow. What would you say has been the biggest challenge that has prevented our MSMEs from actually transitioning to the next stage?
Number one, the high informality. And informality comes because most of them are not visible, they're not registered. And when we come up with interventions, they're not coming forward for those interventions because we don't know who they are. And so we have close to 18 million MSMEs that we have in our space. If you
so right now, those are the ones that we can actually say that have registered?
But they're not registered, all of them. We're just looking at if you were to...
18 million is the registered or just...
No, all the MSMEs.
All the MSMEs.
Informal MSMEs.
Okay.
If you look at those who are registered, I will be around less than 8 million. And I'm looking at the 2016 MSME survey that you're working with. And by the way, we also updating the MSME data. And this financial year we have committed and we started working towards carrying out the MSME survey, because now it's almost 10 years since then, but these have been a decade full of so many challenges. You remember we had corona pandemic, which was a big shock to the MSME sectors. We had the droughts, we had the geopolitical tension happening and disrupting the supply chain. We've had high inflation. So all these factors, all these are inhibiting factors to the MSME growth, and they tend to pull them down. So what we're saying is that now when we undertake a survey, we are going now to get the true status of MSME in this country, get to know those who are still informal, those who are small, who have been registered, are visible small, and maybe micro, small, and also medium enterprises. So that then each and every level of MSME, then we can now start coming up with specific intervention that speaks to their level. So out of those potentially 18 million MSMEs, according to 2016 survey, we put around 8 million could be visible by now, even though I know for the last 3 years, through the State Department and our agencies, MSEA, we've been able to register close to 2.5 million formalization. And
would you say
in terms of
the rate at which we are registering that, is it a quick one or slow?
It's a quick one, because I also realized that one of the incentives that makes businesses to come out or entrepreneurs to come forward for registration is when you show them that they are guaranteed market.
Okay.
So the sector and the value chain which you have registered most has been the affordable housing. Putting together this Juakali, clustering together and registering them through micro small enterprise authority, which is as good as a business registration certificate, like almost akin to company limited. So they come together in a group, they're clustered together, they're given a certificate. That certificate is tradable, you can open an account with it, you can do tenders with it, and this is what has enabled many Juakalis, especially in building and construction value chain, to come together and build their capabilities to be able to access the opportunities in the affordable housing. So we will say in the economy we've been able to add close to 2.5 million in terms of just registration, because those are normal.
Okay.
And that one can also speak to the tax bracket, because the more you're registered, the more you're doing businesses like you're doing, and you're being paid, you're doing transaction, you're opening an account, you have KRA certificate, the more you're expanding the tax bracket.
Okay.
Yes.
I want us to look at 3 years.
And maybe so you ask about what are some of the factors, but majorly that the complex regulatory framework has been one of that. So because if you are not known, then it becomes a challenge to access opportunities that can enable you grow. The other factors have been about access to financing, or rather affordable credit, which was also our commitment to unlocking access to credit. But before that, Brian, allow me just also to talk about the key milestone that we have achieved around the reform, the policy and regulatory reforms. Now, today, we are now advocating for single permit regime. Initially, we talked about licensing issues being barrier, and yes, it was a barrier, because for you even to start your business, you will go to kiosk and find so many paperwork on the wall. Or this is
nowadays we don't have that.
Multiple licensing all over, which you will spend a lot of time moving from one office to another to get to certificate. Maybe you need a health certificate. You need, I don't know, so many certificates that were happening and licensing. But today we are moving to a single permit regime, where you just sign up once, and especially leveraging on technology, and that one speaks to all compliance areas that you need to. Nairobi County has been one of the county that has achieved that. If you want to set up a business in Nairobi, through the city council or the county government, you're able to you need one single permit regime, and you're okay. Other counties are onboarding. I know Embu have progressed, and many others. So we told them this in a way was really demoralizing. For example, you're a young person, you've just graduated, you're coming to the space or rather to the street, you want to start, maybe you had somebody favored you with some little startup capital. You go there, or even you borrowed from some of our agencies like Youth Fund, Wezo Fund and all those. But the burden cost, moving from one authority to another, it was so humongous to an extent that you just give up before you even finish the journey.
So you had a dream to start a business, but the process itself,
the process is so complex and so tedious. It's so costly to an extent that you just give up before you even start it off. But I think that one is happening. Secondly, the e-government, the e-citizen. And this is in response to His Excellency President Dr. William Ruto. It's the emphasis on the need to digitize all government-facing services. Today we have onboarded more than 22,000. When we came to the office, I think we were at a rate of about less than 2,000. Today we have been able to over 20,000. What does this do? You have all your services in one-stop shop. Now today it's very easy to register your business through your mobile phone. For example, to register a company a while back will cost you more than 50,000.
How much is it costing now?
Today today you just need 11,050 shillings.
All right.
And from the comfort of your house, you go to eCitizen, you pay 50 shillings as your access fee, and you go about doing all those necessary processes through. If it's a limited company, you can even download your CR12. Now you see we are big on the EGP, the e-government procurement, again from the comfort of
so
your
all
city.
these are targeting small businesses?
It's easy. It's a major wins, by the way, for small businesses, because who could not have economies of scale to do most of these things, who could not afford to and cannot afford to bring experts on board, to hire investors, market advisors, the legal experts to take them through those processes. You need just your phone. And now that all services can be found as centralized in one-stop shop, the eCitizen, you're able to access that. So our government digitization agenda has really benefited small businesses and has reduced the cost of doing business in this country. And I think this is very, very much transformative to the sector.